And we are live here to chat about tonight's finale of Suits. It's 2 episodes we're chatting about. Episode 15, entitled Tiny Violin, and episode 16, entitled Goodbye. So, of course, we know it's going to be sad. And since there's 2 episodes, I have to bring on 2 people to chat about it. First of all, we have Miss Shana, who you know and love, who's here every week. And we have Miss Lizzie, who you've seen before. She was just here a couple weeks ago. And we're going to get into what they think. We're going to get into what you guys think. We're going to get into some ratings, and I think I'm gonna have everything sort of combined. So even though there's 2 separate episodes, when we're talking about favorite moments, when we're talking about ratings, when we're talking about any of that, I'm gonna sort of combine it so that it's all in one place. We all just watched at the same time. It was 2 hours back to back. Everything was kind of mixed in with the pilot for the Jessica Pearson spinoff as well. So if anything, if we split it, it might be like the Jessica Pearson Chicago side and then the Pearson Spector lit side sort of thing. But let's get into it, and let's start with ratings. So Shana, just overall for these 2 hours, what would you rate this on a scale from 1 to 5? 1 being like super bad and 5 being super good.
Solid 4.
A 4, okay.
I think solid. It had some 5s and it had some not 5s, and they averaged when you math them out.
Yeah, I can see that. Lizzie, what about you? Where are you at with rating this?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with the 4. Like, I think it had some really good moments, and then it had some moments that were like a 3 for me. But like in the end, it all sort of evens out. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're talking about this episode having a lot of highs and lows. I think I agree with that, and I think I also agree with the 4. I mean, it's like a barely 4 for just the Suit side of it. The Jessica side of it, I would say, I'm so easily pleased when it comes to Jessica. Sorry, my hair is wet, and I keep trying to make it not look wet, but it can't be helped. My hair is wet. The Jessica side, I'm so easily pleased when it comes to her, obviously. So just having her on screen, all the Chicago parts, getting to see her family, all of that, I was just sort of that's just sort of an automatic 5 because I'm so excited. But if we just take the Suits part that doesn't include any of the spinoff, that's a 4 that's it's really holding on to it by a thread, because while there are some 5 moments, there's a lot of not 5 moments for me. But let's start off on a positive note and hear what your guys' 5 moments were. What are your top bits here? Well, first, let me jump in the chat, see what everybody else is thinking. Rachel C says 3.5 out of 5. I don't think there was enough core ensemble scenes between the OGs. Would have enjoyed more scenes at the wedding. Love Darby. Stormy says, out of the 2 hours, the thing she's most hyped for is Jessica's spinoff. She's also going for a 3.5, and there's a lot of Jessica spinoff hype in the chat. So what's your top moments? What moments were getting a 5 for you? I'll just start with Shane again.
Definitely all the Jessica, when she, I think the best part with Jessica was when she was in that bitch's office and she was like, it's been going on since the beginning of time. And she's basically, accusing that chick of some shady shit. And just the way she stared her down, I was like, I don't know how this girl didn't erupt into flames, because I did. Obviously the wedding was, I know a lot of people were complaining that, they didn't have it sooner and it's so short, but Suits is not a wedding show, guys.
That's fair.
But the way that they did it was beautiful. It really was. I'm not even a wedding person, but I was pretty trash for this. And then really honestly, as far as Mike and Rachel go, forget the wedding though, when they, in the first half, when Mike was really, he was going through case file after case file of these sick kids, and they were just them. There was nothing, there was no, no frills, no outside, really. It was just them at home, and he was beating himself up for not being able to save everybody, and she was being supportive, and it was that really got me, in terms of big emotional things, above and beyond probably even the wedding, that wrecked me, that scene. And then
a lot of really good sort of Mike and Rachel components to this, which was nice to see since they had to be sent off and kind of sent off a short amount of time too.
Yes and no.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into the cons in a second. Let me toss it over to Lizzie. Lizzie, what were your 5 moments? What were your, bits of this episode where you were like, yes, this is everything I want to see and more?
Everything Jessica. We were talking a little bit before we started that she's one of those characters I always knew I loved, and she was there. I loved her. But then when she sort of left, you were like, yeah, I remember that I loved her, but then until she was back, I didn't quite remember how much I loved her. Like I let myself, and there are other things I enjoyed, and then this episode in particular, since it was sort of like the backdoor pilot, it was like, okay, give me that show, because I will take Jessica. I don't know, for a while there, I thought I didn't watch for Jessica, or that I was wrong, whatever. I don't know what I thought, but yeah, Jessica, whatever you want, I'm here. And then, yeah, I enjoyed the wedding. I agree and disagree with Shana, which is like our life. I agree with what you said, but I did think it was too short. I mean, I know it's not a wedding show, but you can give me 1 more minute. Come on. I think they spend that's part of the problem. I enjoyed the Jessica parts, but that's part of the problem of slotting the backdoor pilot when they did, is that in a way it takes away from the other part of the story. And then maybe people would have liked a longer stand-up of Mike and Rachel, knowing that we all knew this was going to be their last episode. I don't know if I'd been the one writing it, if I would have chosen to do it this way. I did enjoy what we got of the wedding. I thought it was really sweet. I thought it was really them. And just, I don't know, it made me emotional. It's like a journey that's come full circle, and we've been there with them all this time.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, I'm such a sucker for weddings, so I would have loved to see more of the wedding, or at least, even if it's not so much more of the ceremony aspect, because I agree, as Shana said, that this is not necessarily a super wedding show where we're going to see,
but the reception or something.
Yeah, I think this is definitely a reception show, especially with a show like this that focuses so much on characters. I mean, this is a very character-driven network overall. Just especially for a send-off like this. And also, I hope this doesn't come across wrong. I really thought the network would want to milk this wedding a little more than they did. Not that I'm saying that they should. I wanted to see it because I have been watching this show for 7+ years of my life and am attached to these characters at this point. But with them having a wedding with Mike and Rachel, played by Patrick and Meghan Markle, you would just think that would take up a larger portion of the episode, and rather what we got was, while these 2 hours were going on, they kept having a commercial re-airing sort of bits of the wedding, saying this is coming up. But when you actually got there just really wasn't that much in terms of screen time, which I know because I was recording it on my end and trying to see if I was tweeting videos of this, how many tweets would it take? 2? It's pretty short. So I was just kind of surprised by that, both for sentimental reasons on my end and also sort of on who's doing the business side of this? Y'all could have done a bit more. It's fine though. I'm with you though on moments that were 5s and not. Now we got a question on Twitter, and she specifically submitted this question to Shana, and she says, this is from @BaseEmpire. She says, question for Shana, in all caps, why didn't they at the wedding? What is Chloe so afraid of in your view, and do you think season 8 will finally go there? So it's a 3-part question. This is just Shana. I'll let her take it first, but then Lizzie, I'm also kind of curious to hear what you think about this Shana question.
So I think we've got a few issues here, and I think it's something that I think nobody's really been particularly clear on, but I do have to say from kind of an organizational side of things, you had a lot that had to be done here. You had to have a setup for next season. You had to have some kind of conflict to carry over. You had to give Patrick and Megan some kind of send-off. So you had to feature those characters in a way that was meaningful. And they had to do the Jessica thing. So they had 2 episodes to do probably 3 episodes minimum worth of work. So I think part of why they didn't is because, like, I hate saying this because Darby is like my shit, but like they weren't the point and there wasn't time. And I hate to be that blunt about it because I get it. Like, I get it. But the other thing I think too is that you do have obligations, you know, to higher ups. You've got, so I think Darby is something that they need to carry anticipation for because they really don't have, in terms of interpersonal relations, they don't have any stories left to carry over.
Other than like the 2 seconds we got of Lewis and Sheila slow dancing, which I don't know, does anybody care
I don't care about. No.
Right.
And, you know, so you've got the firm drama to carry over, but in terms of anything interpersonal, what's left? Like the heart, like the heart of things, most of the family is gone. So I think, I mean, so here's kind of a twofold issue. And I've already had people come at me that like, oh, well, you know, you clearly gave it away last week, which I'm sorry if I did, because that was not the intention. When I talk about there being no follow through with Darby, that has had nothing to do with this week. It has nothing to do still with this week. I know that there is a history of this series having no follow through with Darby. Right. So what I would say about this episode is that they gave a good setup where Darby could very soon, but they left it ambiguous because they have nothing else to tell. And I'm kind of a 1 foot in, 1 foot out in terms of, are they actually going to tell this story? It really looks, and I put a rant at the end of my recap. It really looks good. There's a lot that really points toward it. But again, I mean, the one major thing that points against Darby happening is just that it hasn't, which, you know, it's like fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. They fooled me already with the hand holding. So
yeah, just to sort of piggyback on that before I toss it over to Lizzie, you made a really good point. You said that one of the things that seems like proof that Harvey and Donna wouldn't happen is that they haven't. And I thought what was interesting in this episode is, as you said, you know, we had Mike and Rachel needing a wedding and a send-off. That's 2 core characters needing that. We had absolutely no time for any story for Lewis, and his story prior to this with Sheila was pretty abysmal anyways. And then we had this whole backdoor pilot for Jessica, which was fantastic. But in that, we didn't have a lot of time for Harvey and Donna. But, you know, when we did have a lot of time for Harvey and Donna, literally every other episode, and we didn't get that. So at that point, with that lack of a proper amount of time given to it, other than just, you know, 20 seconds of a scene where they had 2 glasses of scotch the night before, we didn't have what we needed to be able to rush them into something at the wedding. So we just got the dance, which was lovely. Don't get me wrong. But I find it disappointing. And I think, I'm pretty sure all 3 of us said this before last time we were talking, or at least it was you and Shana and I were saying it's disappointing that we have the very last moment where we have all of these cast members together in one room, and some of them who's, you know, like a lot of their connection and story has written on, you know, this investment in each other's interpersonal dynamics. They're not going to get to see that for Harvey and Donna. But there was so much else going on this episode that I also want to talk about. And I also want to give Lizzie a chance to answer these questions. So Lizzie, the question that was posed to Shana had a lot to do with what you expect in season 8. And I know this is usually something we save till the end of the show, but I kind of want to touch on it now just because that's something that's so much in the forefront of any finale, is looking forward, and even to the point of looking at the promos and such for next season. In the more general sense, what do you expect to see in season 8, or what do you want to see in season 8?
I think those are 2 different answers. I mean, I don't trust writers at this point. I think, like, in general, like, even the ones that give me a good vibe, I'm like, let's be cautiously optimistic, because writers just screw me over all the time. So, like, my mind is like, don't trust them. They've taken Harvey and Donna, for example, up to a point, and then nothing else has happened up to the point where I've been like, I'm gonna stop watching Suits like 3 times. But then again, what I see it like Shayna does, but I see it in another ways. Like, yes, they don't have any other story to tell. So basically, if they don't tell this story, they're gonna lose everyone. Like at this point, it's not even like can they do a season 8 without Darby? Is who the fuck is gonna watch a season 8 if they don't move forward? Like no one's here for a new character. No one's here for Louis and Sheila. Like we are here. If we're still gonna be here, we're gonna be here for Harvey and Don. And if we tune in next season, in the first episode nothing happens, in the second episode nothing happens, then we're bye. And then we're gonna watch Jessica's spin-off, and then we'll check in on YouTube when Harvey and Donna actually, if that ever happens. And I don't think they can afford that. So at this point, like they have nothing else to give to people. Like before, they were like, well, maybe you're watching for Mike and Rachel. Mike and Rachel are gone. So if you don't take Darby forward, you're gonna lose the viewers. And like that doesn't mean they're gonna do it because maybe they're not that smart. But like that is the only way forward that I see.
And I just find it, first of all, I strongly agree with you. And then I also just kind of find it unfortunate that they would have to wait till then, right? I understand just in the general sense, both in micro writing, so per episode, and macro writing per season and per show, you want to save the good bits till the very end, of course. But that is sort of an old-fashioned way of thinking of storytelling when it comes to things like movies, books, etc. People are going to read the whole thing. But when it comes to TV shows and the storytelling involved with that, it's not a matter of like you don't retain the audience you have from the beginning till the very end. So if you save all the good bits till the end, you've also saved that till there's the fewest amount of people left. And on some level, there's a bit of, you feel special because, I mean, I think you, like me, both of you have been watching this show probably as long as I have, which, I've been watching it since the pilot live. And, I will be there watching, whenever it does end and we're finally done with that. And if there are very few people, there's sort of an element of that being special. But for the sake of the story itself, and of course the cast, the characters, and the creative team involved with this, you want the highlights, the biggest moments to be when most people are watching. And so you hear about highlights throughout the show overall. So Jessica's dragon speech, Mike and Rachel's file room bit, Lewis's reaction to the death of Norma. Those are sort of these big highlights that come to mind for those characters. And for Harvey and Donna, both separately and together, there are certainly highlights we could list, but we're so invested in their relationship, and that's so sort of essential to their development as people, that when the moment does come that there is something that eventually pulls them together, or God forbid finally pulls them apart, that will be a highlight or a very significant moment for them, and that will be past this show's quote unquote prime. And so that's just unfortunate. And I only say it's past this prime not to act despondent about the future writing, because I'm sure the future writing will probably be consistent or better quality than what we've had so far. But unfortunately, at least half of the main cast and, dare I say, pretty significant members of the main cast are gone. Those who were pretty essential to that story. So that's what we find disappointing, that opportunities like this and opportunities like, we bring it up before, but other finales, the 100th episode, all of that, sometimes they've passed up on these opportunities to, in their prime, show some of the key characters in their prime. But let's jump into the chat and see what they're thinking. Stormy says, Donna can sure throw together a gorgeous wedding. She sure can. Rosh says people are used to seeing Harvey with, oh, sorry, the message went away. I can't find it anymore. Rosh, just resubmit it if you want, because I can no longer see that. Kaka says, I agree. A bit disappointing. They used Darby to get an audience. The show is good. They don't need to do that. Stormy says, if Darby doesn't happen next season, I don't know if I'll continue to watch if the show gets picked up again. Stormy also goes on to say, I'm sad we'll never see Rachel and Donna together. I love their friendship, and we never got enough of them for my liking. That leads me to a question I have for both of you. What did you think of the goodbye element of this? There were some characters, for example, who didn't get a goodbye with each other. What did you think of that? Shana, I'll toss it to you first.
See, I thought it was fitting. I really did. I mean, Rachel and Donna embracing and saying they loved each other. And Korch can't rewrite history on that and take it back because she's gone. She's never coming back. Donna and Rachel love each other. Done. Okay. Mike and Harvey. Mike had those two bits, and they weren't really know it was a goodbye at the time, but it had the feel to it. Mm-hmm. Really get one with Lewis, I think, would be my only drawback. Mm-hmm. But the money at the piano, like I've got, and like, look, y'all know that I like fangirl like on a very superficial level for Gabriel, but I very much on a like what his talent is level. My beloved Beard, he was amazing in that last scene of those two by the piano, because there's this moment where like Harvey looks away to compose himself, and you could see like in his eyes he was about to cry and didn't, and it was like that is so fucking loaded, because you think about who Harvey Specter is, the fact that he even stepped up and like actually complimented Mike's vows and spoke, and then the being like the kind of wanting to beg him to stay, that it wasn't going to go anywhere, but he still kind of tried. Well, you can do the work that you want. And, that was the best, like those two at the piano to me was the best send off that Mike could have had. Mm-hmm. And I think had this been a series finale, I would have been okay with it, even without Darby, because there was the hint of Darby. And as a series finale, they couldn't walk it back. So we could think what we wanted to think. It just really, really, really original premise of this fuck up little boy, appearing in Harvey's office by chance and everything. I really like wrecked. I want to say wrecked a lot probably, but I mean, it really, honest to God.
Yeah.
I think the reason that I'm not sobbing thinking
Shana,
about it
you're
now.
Cutting out a little bit, so I'm going to toss it to Lizzie, and then I'm going to come back to you. Okay. So Lizzie, the question had to do with the goodbyes between these characters, and Shana pointed out some really good ones, some really good, meaningful goodbyes. Were there any that you wanted to see that you didn't see, or were there any that stood out to you that maybe Shana hasn't mentioned yet?
I don't think I need it anymore. I mean, I think they could have done more. But in terms of the emotional beats that they had to hit, I think they hit those. I mean, I think, yeah, there were some other goodbyes they could have done, and maybe some of the things we would have liked, but I don't think there was anything else we needed. I think they did what we needed, because basically the two most important goodbyes that we needed, they were Mike and Harvey and Rachel and Donna. And I think they did that. I think part of the reason we didn't get the other things that we wanted, just like we didn't get more of the wedding, is that because they had too much to put in the episode. And again, it just goes back to what I said before. I would have liked to have an episode that was just the goodbye. I think that would have probably been more fitting. But considering that they did all of that, I think they gave us the most important ones. And then I get the sense maybe they filmed some other goodbyes and they just didn't have time for them. But yeah, for me, I love Rachel and Donna together. But like the series for me has been about Mike and Harvey, and like how everything changed. Like Shana said, when Mike walked into that office, in like that moment for me, it would have worked as a season finale. No, not just as a season finale, but as a series finale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just looking into the chat now just to see what everybody else thought about this. Rosh says, I think it was good considering they knew halfway through the season probably that they were leaving. Kaka says, that episodes 10 through 16 were all about Darby, and the last episode was just a few seconds. They didn't have to get in bed, but they had to have more time. Jordan Phillips says the show is good. It doesn't need to bait people with Darby. It's sad that that's what they're doing. Rachel C. says season 8 should open up with Darby in bed for real. And Phoebe says there's a bit of arrogance in the writing of Suits. There's this need to portray themselves as smart, but they invariably end up being condescending to their audience, which I find really interesting. I think she's spot on, first of all. And they're just smart enough. It's very similar to Mike, really. The show's just smart enough to get away with portraying itself as smart, and most of the time sort of get away with it, and when they don't, it's just sort of brushed off as a TV show. But there is a bit of being condescending to the audience about the things that they want. There's the show. We already know that the show intended for Mike and Rachel to be the main romance, and then Harvey and Donna developed a sort of a side romance, and that, because of the chemistry and the casting and all of that, and that was the part that got withheld because that was what the audience wanted. And there's this air of, we know better what you want, but sometimes what the fans want is just as good or better. For example, the storyline for Rachel, and how that sort of had to change when both fans and Meghan Markle were advocating for a slightly different direction and approach for her character, and it improved a lot with that. So I think that there is a bit of being willing to learn or try new things that could be done, but it's because it's coming from writing and a creative team that does genuinely do a fantastic job a lot of times with the macro and the micro writing for this show, more so the micro than the macro. But regardless, it's something that's got us to care about it for 7 years. So it's a compliment when we're asking for more, because I think Shana and I were talking about last week, we're often asking for them to continue the thing they are writing, but just have a bit more follow through and have just a little bit more of it. And so that's a compliment. We're wanting more of what they've already started. Jordan says, I loved the episode, but it was kind of rushed. Yeah, even for 2 hours, it was really rushed, especially because it served as a backdoor pilot. Are you guys excited for the Jessica spinoff? Did you like the amount of Jessica that was in this? Did you wish it was a shorter backdoor pilot, or did you like that about an hour of this was dedicated to Jessica spinoff? Lizzie, I'll start with you on that one.
I love Jessica. I love what we got, and I am so excited about her show. I'm there for that. I do not think, however, that this should have been an hour in the final episode that was a goodbye to Mike and Rachel. I feel like if they needed it to be an hour, they could have found a way to do it before. And I know they didn't have a 2-hour episode before, but whatever, the magic of television, you writers, figure it out. It's not my job to figure it out. And if it were, I would have figured it out, I promise. I think it took away from the goodbye. Which doesn't mean that I didn't love every second that I got of Jessica. I just think it, as a whole, it didn't work. But the Jessica parts by themselves worked perfectly. So, and yeah, they had to put it with the other characters, but in a way, it sort of took away from the other characters, and it leaves you sort of feeling like you didn't get enough of what you wanted, especially if you're not here for Jessica and Jessica's been gone for a while.
Yeah. Rosh has a really interesting suggestion. She says she thinks they should have removed episode 14, made 15 as 14, and 15 and 16 just a goodbye, which would have given it a bit more time. She says 14 was a filler. So 14, especially the case component of it, was a bit filler / setup. I know, Shana, you made a good case for episode 14 not being filler. What did you think about the pacing of this episode and the amount of Jessica within it?
I mean, I am kind of torn when you think about it was a send-off for 2 major characters. But at the same, I loved the Jessica content. I think it was a really good episode. So I don't want to say, oh, there was too much of that. I think they maybe even could have left the firm drama a little bit more open-ended if they had to cut something. Because the firm is always in trouble. They even poked fun at themselves, dropping a couple of lines about, whatever you call that firm. So I think I was fine with the Jessica content. I'm fine with the episode as it was. Honestly, like I think, and I will say that where the split happened between 15 and 16 was after that kind of family meeting at Harvey's house. And watching the screeners, something that you don't necessarily pick up on, but that I did because I'm trash, is that the episode 16 was actually longer running than an average episode. So, and that's why it kind of like the split was actually, in terms of when it actually aired on television in the US, it kind of jumped right in at about 10 till the hour, I think, because there was more content in that second episode. So they actually, they already gave more time to the whole concept than they normally do to anything. So to then ask for more when they've already given us a slightly extended episode that covered everything and everybody, like it almost seems unfair, but at the same time, and I think for Mike went out the right way. I really believe that seeing him just kind of own big power in court was exactly what we needed to see. He didn't resort to any shady shit. Like he proved that he actually has been on a journey that has often been a step forward and 2 steps back, but he has in fact somehow moved forward.
I just echoing what you're saying and jumping into the chat, because one of the comments that had been made earlier was that it was quite recent that they learned that Patrick and Megan were leaving. Phoebe says they actually knew Patrick and Megan were leaving months ago, but we wasted so much time on Sheila and Agard because the writers wanted to make some point that I still don't get, or to avoid Darby. They could have spent that time on the relationships between the core cast instead. Rachel C. says, I feel like the network should have done a commercial-free finale or limited commercials. Well, first of all, we'll get back to Phoebe because I think she's spot on again, but Rachel C. makes an excellent point. And once again, from that business side, that would have been an excellent hour of television to market as commercial-free or limited commercials and add as much content as possible there. My God, consider who you have on this show. But back to what Phoebe said. Yes, with Sheila and Agard, you definitely get the idea that they were trying to prove a point, and they were trying to prove a point that they were right to pick the storyline all along, and it was worth the very, limited space and high-profile space, for lack of a better term, on this back half of the season, which, is, in terms of outsiders' eyes being on this show, I would say probably the back half of the season is pretty heavy on that. And you would think you'd want to put your best foot forward. And unfortunately, neither Sheila nor Agard is the show's best foot. Or I should say, fortunately, the show has much better feet than that. And they did waste a lot of time on those storylines, either because they genuinely thought they were good and didn't realize it, or because they wanted to prove that they were good and wanted to prove some sort of point. And that, to me, was not proven, but I appreciated, as Phoebe said, the core cast, even if it was a bit more limited in the amount of time that we got with them than it could have been. And I think if we had gotten a little bit more of the core cast throughout this back half of the season, we wouldn't have felt quite as rushed in this finale. And while I don't mind at all any amount of time being given to Jessica, give her as much time on the show as you would like, because I've missed her desperately, I think that would have given her as well even more time if we had cut some of that filler content that was either ill-advised or didn't fit the show or was never really addressed properly in the end. Rosh says at the end of the day, they're all family, so I could see why they tried to protect Megan, and I'm happy they didn't do that. I think she might be referencing the commercial-free finale or something like that with like as much.
No, I think something about taking advantage of the wedding. It might be about that.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Which I sort of get.
I'm just surprised they didn't, honestly.
Yeah, business-wise. Like, I'm not surprised that they try to protect her. I'm surprised that they ended up being able to, which is not the same.
Yeah. I mean, there was a limited amount of time that they had with her in general, so I appreciated that the storyline finally in the end for her was lawyer focused and not just, some of the other stuff that we've had issues with for Rachel. By the end, I thought that the character had grown and was so impressive, and I know Megan's fought a lot for that. And I'm glad that the send-off was shared between Mike and Rachel so that it wasn't just this big, like, oh, elephant in the room, Megan's leaving. But I do think that I for one would not have minded at all a commercial-free finale, if for no other reason than to get more time for anything. It could be for Gina, for whatever they want to put in there, any of the other core cast, anything that was cut. And also because there were some goodbye. For example, one of my favorite friendships, and we got just quite a short goodbye for them, was when Lewis came and gave the money for Mike and Rachel to leave and start their thing. And I'd kind of wished for more of a goodbye for that, especially because Lewis was so influential. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, he ended up paying for Rachel to go to law school. And now he's paying for this new firm that she's starting. So it's a pretty cool friendship. And we didn't even really get a goodbye for them. So I don't know. I kind of wish for more of that. But I know we only have a couple more minutes, and I want to give you guys both a chance to kind of give any final thoughts that you have on this finale. And Lizzie, since I think you need to leave first, possibly, I'll let you start.
Yes, I thought it was good. I wanted more, and I didn't necessarily want more in the sense that I wanted Darby to, because, and someone said something before, I legitimately would be so angry if season 8 starts with them in fucking bed. No, that's not the way I want it, okay? I don't want that Chris Carter bullshit. If they're gonna do it, I want to see it, okay? And I legit will be mad because I've been here before and I will not take it, okay? So if my OTP is gonna bang, they need to bang on screen. It doesn't need to be something that I hear when I find out she's pregnant. So no. But
there's a question that we just got on Twitter that's very relevant to what Lizzie's saying. Marisol writes in to say, why invest so much time in scripts insinuating Darby things in almost all of the chapters if in the end Harvey and Dawn are in the same situation as past seasons? Lizzie, that sounds a lot like what you're saying as well.
Yeah. And I enjoyed the finale for what it was. I think it was a good send-off. It had some emotional moments. We thought about why we already talked about what it was lacking on. But I think going into season 8, they need to commit. I mean, it's time. It's been time for 3 seasons. But okay, dude, final chance. Commit to Darby. Or why am I watching? I'm not watching for Catherine Hegel. Let me tell you that.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
so
girl.
Either you commit, or I think you're gonna lose a lot of viewers. And because right now the only I know we sort of are invested in Lewis, but not as much as in Harvey and Donna.
Right.
So, and especially not when Sheila's around existing.
Yeah.
So commit to it, and because that's what. Not only because that's what people want, but because fans are not people you have to prove wrong over and over and over again.
Right.
But fans, first of all, fans are the ones keeping you here. And at some point, it's not even fan service giving fans what they want, because if fans want something, they want it because you built it up. So it's not that we're imagining things that are not there. You took us to a point, and then you're like, haha, you're going to have to wait there till I decide it's time. And that's unfair. And then we feel cheated, and then we don't want to keep watching. So just take it there. Take the final step, or I don't know. I feel like I will check out the beginning of the season, and if we're in episode 5, nothing's happening, I'm like, bye, Felicia. I've been here before. I've been burned by Chris Carter, okay? So
it's not so much that I don't want a long buildup, it's that I want a buildup to actually happen. So if I'm being told, oh, we don't even know if a buildup is even happening, that's wasting my time. If it's a slow buildup, but everybody, the creative team and so on, is telling us yes, there's a buildup happening, then at least I feel inclined to stick around, because I think
me too.
Payoff or story. Shana, what about you? What are your final thoughts on this?
I feel like Jerry Springer. I think I've said that before. I got to come up with new material. Here's what I'll say. I think they made 2 really bad promotional decisions so far. The first one was kind of implying that the whole story of the finale was the wedding. I think some of the disappointment that I'm hearing is because people expected more, and they expected it because they were hit over the head with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I want to say to that is, and this is really hard, and I fall victim to it all the time too. What a network uses as promotion and what a show is are not always the same thing. And going into something with expectations is a sure way to make you hate something you love. So let's just stop. Let's stop letting them fuck us over. Like, we're willingly walking into this at this point.
I'm here regardless.
Yeah,
yes.
right. Like, we're here. The second promotional error is, the promo that aired tonight. You're not going to bring your viewers back for an 8th season based on a new character played by somebody who a lot of people fucking hate. I'm just going to throw it down. Like, a lot of people hate. And a lot of people hated the news that she was coming.
And I feel like this is just going to be another example of like what Lizzie and what Phoebe were saying of this show constantly trying to prove a point rather than taking their L and switching directions.
Yeah, and I am going to have to fight a little bit on that. I will say I have quite frankly loved this back 6. I don't think I've really made much of a mystery about that. As much as I hated seeing more Paula and more Sheila, they did have to, to me, it would have been more upsetting if they'd have pretended that those stories never happened. Giving them the time to write them out, I think, was the right decision. And I think they wrote them out. They got I said this at the beginning of these back 6. We started in a really, really shitty, inexcusable place. And I think they did a phenomenal job of writing themselves out of it. My plea to Mr. Korsh moving forward, and whatever they've already filmed. They can't change that. And we have to remember that the timeline with Suits filming is very different from when we get it. And it's different with other shows, but it's more different here. Mm-hmm. But going forward from this moment, whatever you write from now on, Aaron Korsh, just don't get yourself into that kind of territory again. It's not worth it. It's, I saw a lot of tweets tonight from people who I usually really respect their opinions, but I had to mute them because I couldn't stand it because they were watching on a very superficial, I'm holding a grudge about 7A level. Let's not do that to ourselves.
I'm not here to criticize how other people watch the show. Like, however people want to watch the show, whatever they're there for, I'm all for it.
Oh, no, I'm not.
For superficial things, it's chill. If somebody's there for deep things, it's chill. However a fan responds to the show, it's totally fine. And I know you agree with me. I'm just
saying,
there's more here in the chat that I wanted to get to. But I would just say,
don't let them fuck us over.
I think that we want, when we're encouraged, anybody can feel however they want about the writers too. Like, if they want to drag the writers, love the writers, whatever. But I think for me, my response to the writers is sort of, when we're asking for more, it's because we like something that was written and we want more of that. And we feel that there's some sort of lesser things that are either not as good or even frankly actively bad that we'd like to see less of, such as the Paula thing, which I know all 3 of us are we want less of that, and then we want more of some things that these writers have built up and that we love, and credit of course to the cast for portraying it so well, but also the writing as well. Just jumping into the chat because I know we're running short on time and I want to get to these. Phoebe wants to know who's going to be watching Korean Suits. I, for one, am. I'm very unfamiliar with watching things with subtitles, but I'm sure going to do it. Rosh says overall she liked it, but she would like to see dating and flirting. She prefers that, even if they have reservations about being physical, so we won't see it. I'm sure these two don't have reservations about being physical. They'll be fine. Stormy says the writers can give me a slow build-up, but there better be follow-through. Stop baiting people. If I wanted to see Katherine Heigl play a lawyer, I would have watched the show Doubt that got canceled in one season. Oh, the mic has been dropped by Miss Stormy. I never watched that show and never intend to, but unfortunately I'm going to have to watch Miss Heigl play a lawyer regardless. I don't know why I say unfortunately. I haven't watched anything that she's been in other than 27 Dresses, so I have no idea. But I do know that that's not why I'm watching Suits, and unfortunately that was who I saw in the promo nearly exclusively, which does not endear me to the character. But of course, we'll wait and see. I'm here for Harvey, Donna, Lewis, and any of the exited 3 who would like to return, as well as a few other side characters that I do actually care about, like Gretchen, Amy, etc. Well, I kept you guys way too late. If anybody would like to chat with you more, Miss Lizzie and Miss Shana, your information's already in the description down below for your Twitter, but where else can they find you and all the stuff that you guys do?
You can find me writing on Fangirlish or at Stop and Fangirl 3 on Twitter, which is my podcast, which is called Stop and Fangirl. And if you want to tweet at me something about Suits, don't do it now because I am on my way to see Avengers. And that's all I'm going to be thinking for the next 2 days. So if you want to talk about that, come.
And Shana, where can people find you as well?
You can find my recaps from almost all of this season on the TV Addict. And I think all of season 6 also is there, most of season 6. Mm-hmm. I'm on Twitter at Shazors with a 0 instead of an O. Mm-hmm. And just, I wasn't trying to shit on anybody's fangirling. I'm just saying, don't look. I'm stealing from The Handmaid's Tale is my final thought to go out. Don't let the bastards get you down. Like, don't let them do this to us where they take this thing that we love and they make us hate it. Like, if you wind up hating it, fine, but don't let it be because somebody promoted something a certain way. Like, clean slate. Like, yeah, there better be some fucking follow through or else I'm like personally sending a toaster. Okay, but there's just so much more. Like, there are so many other things that we love about this show. Like, I don't want to see us all lose. I don't want to lose that. And when it's time to drag, we can drag. But when there's something good, like, don't let yourself be robbed of it. That's all.
Totally fair.
Jessica, what would Jessica do? Jessica would take her fucking W and walk. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Jessica will be here next season for sure, no matter who else is here. I would like to thank Miss Lizzie and Miss Shana for joining us. I'd like to thank everybody in the chat for joining us. I forgot to mention I'm wearing the NARS matte lip pencil in Cruella. There we go. We've got that covered. And I will see you guys. Well, if anybody watches Arrow, I'll see you tomorrow. If you love yourself and you don't watch the CW, then I'll see you next time. We're doing a after show for season 8, where I have no doubt we'll have a lot to say. Maybe we'll have to do a little bit of a catch up before that even starts. Thank you guys for joining me for 7A and 7B, and even with all of the complaints and criticisms and things that we change and things that we loved, there is nothing I would change about everybody watching and all of my absolutely lovely guests. You made watching the show so much more fun. And goodbye temporarily until next season. Bye, guys.